tonight to have with us all 7 Jungle Red Riders. We didn't know when we first came up with this idea if it was a ludicrous idea or an enlightened idea, and I think we'll find out in about an hour how well something like this goes. We've never hosted an event with 7 riders, so we're super excited that you're all able to join us tonight, and thank you so much to everyone who's come to talk with us this evening.
Yeah, we're so excited. It's a beautiful night, and the fact that we get to spend it with you is just a lovely treat. So thank you, Jungle Reds, for being here with us. The first question we wanted to ask, and maybe since Hallie, you're to my right, I'm going to pose it to you, is how you got together to become the Jungle Red Riders.
Oh, you would ask that. I'm going to have to throw this to, I want to say Hank. Hank, were you the first person to come up with this brilliant idea? I know I was on very early, but I don't think I was in the very first group.
Yeah, I think this happened, and help me you all, but I think it might have been maybe 12 years ago, 11 years ago. I could not possibly, all the time has mushed together completely. But 10 or 11 years ago, 2 other authors and I, Jan Brogan and Rosemary Harris, we remember them well and love them still. The 3 of us were at a Sisters in Crime meeting, and the speaker did not show up. And it was a state police officer here in Massachusetts, and the speaker did not show up. And we have always thought, we thought then, and we think now, that it was because he decided he wanted to stay home and watch the Patriots game. We don't know if this is actually the case, but we decided that was true. So Jan and Rosemary and I were there at this meeting. We thought, well, what if we just talk? What if the 3 of us just had a panel discussion, just impromptu panel discussion, since all the Sisters in Crime members were there waiting for entertain us with the police officer, and we're like, no, he's not here. So the 3 of us decided to sort of step in and see if we could be stars briefly, and we had a really terrific, thought-provoking, honest, generous, authentic discussion among the 3 of us about the writing life and how we worked and our fears and our hopes and our dreams, and we loved it, and everyone loved it. And afterwards, it was one of those sort of Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland kind of things. If we could have a show, we could have a blog. And quickly we got Hallie, I think was our 4th member. And I don't remember. And then Roberta was next. And then Rhys and I met at a St. Martin's party. Hallie, jump in and tell about what happened next. If you remember, among us, we should remember.
Well, I remember we lost a couple of people along the way. We had some people join and drop. And our most recent ad is Jen, who is completely fabulous.
My brilliant idea.
Yes, we're giving you credit. We'll give you complete credit, Lucy. And Julia and Deb came in before
together. We came in together. I think we both had our first posts the same month in
10 years?
10 years. 10 years ago. Yeah.
I remember Rhys came up to me at the St. Martin's party. Do you remember this, Rhys? At BoucherCon, came up to me at the St. Martin's publishing party and said, I hear you have a blog. And I think within about 42 seconds, or maybe 4.2 seconds, I said, do you want to be on the blog? Do you remember that at all, Rhys?
Yeah, well, I remember getting together, whether you asked me or I asked you. I don't remember that anymore, but I know it was instant, oh, this is a good idea, yes.
Yeah.
And I went, I'm joining a group blog, and he was like, you're already writing 2 books a year, and you're doing, are you out? And I think at that time I was one of the presidents of MWA too. Are you out of your mind completely?
Yeah. And happily, yes.
Yes.
It's a ton of work. It's a lot of work, because it used to be just 3 times a week, wasn't it, Hank?
Mm-hmm.
And then Hank said, we've got to do it every day. And we all said, we've got to do it every day. But then people miss it, and we miss it.
That's what she said. Yeah. Sorry.
Debs, tell about the weekly way it works.
Oh, well, it is very handy now because there are 7 of us. So we rotate. One of us is in charge of hosting per week. and we have guests and we do group chats, but we organize all that. We invite the guests. Sometimes we have help from other Jungle Reds who get people, and we switch things around. And then on the 8th week, we each get a day to talk about what we're writing. So right now, 7 seems to be the charm number.
Yeah, it's such a great idea. And I vaguely remember when you all started, and I remember thinking, like, what a great idea for content creation, because so many authors were really struggling with creating enough content to get people to come to the blogs and to get that exposure. So for the 7 of you to band up like this, I just think it was really a fantastic idea. And I've seen some other authors try it, but they don't last. So kudos to you all for.
I think part of it is we're friends, which helps a lot.
Yeah.
And one of the things that makes us different is that we all participate every day. Even if it's not our week, we all try to comment and share the posts. And so it's not just you have 1 week and then, 6 or 7 weeks you're not involved. It's every single day, which is great because it keeps us all in touch.
And the thing that makes Jungle Red blog a little bit different also than the other ones you talked about is that we have real conversations. Every Monday is a real conversation. So the Red in charge of the week picks a topic and we say, let's talk about movies. Let's talk about endings of books. Let's talk about what we're reading. Let's talk about any topic. And we've done this for 11 years, come up with the topic every morning and then say, what do you all think about this? And that's really worked, don't you think?
Yeah.
Well, I think what has really blossomed in the last couple of years are it's not just us. It's the 60 or 100 or 150 people who check in every morning, starting at about 5 in the morning. Yeah. I mean, we routinely have 90 to 100 comments on a daily blog, and they're meaty. I mean, it's not just head nodding. Everybody is, and they know each other. I don't know. It's very.
There's dialogue. There's dialogue going on in the front blog with us, and then there's dialogue going on in the comments with our readers and the rest of us. So it's a really great community.
Yeah. We were pleased to be guests on the Jungle Red blog, and I want to say it was a Sunday when it posted. It was a weekend, I feel like, and Hank reached out and said, if you get a chance to get on the comments, that'd be really helpful. And I was lost. I spent about 4 hours that day. It was as if I was having a conversation with all of the people in the comments. It was lovely. You've built a really nice community on the Jungle Red blog. So
we have a lot of people who lurk. We have regular commenters, but we have, I don't know, a couple of thousand people usually every day who just read and don't comment. And it's always interesting when we're out doing public things, some book signings or conferences, that all the people that come up and say, I read you every day.
Yeah, I've always been surprised because the number of people, like professional people, like some of my editors in New York will say, oh, I saw that comment you made on the blog yesterday. And you suddenly think, oh gosh, they're following us every day.
There are really people out there.
That's great.
Jen, you're the newest Red, Jen. But I keep thinking that feels like you've always been there. Was it difficult to come on as the new kid, however many years ago it was? 5?
5. Wow, that's weird. It does feel like I've always been there. I think that's my personality. But the beginning was daunting because you were so established and I didn't feel worthy. So that I was very intimidated. But I think it's like, honestly, it was like a job. You have kind of about 6 months till you're comfortable. It was about 6 months, and then I was like, okay, I think I got this.
That's great.
Well, what I like about Jungle Reds, though, is that, before I was a Red, I was a guest. I think Rhys had invited me because I was doing the London book, and I asked you for an endorsement, so you knew me. And I think Lucy. and maybe Deb, I can't remember. A small world. But what I love about it is it's detrimental to your to be read pile, Jungle Red, because we get so many authors who there's not a lot of avenues for new authors or even established authors to reach new audience members. And I think we offer really, I mean, we get a lot of PR people asking us to have people on Jungle Reds because there's not a lot of places that are solid, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for that. And we thought we'd also ask each of you to introduce yourselves a little bit. So everyone here can get to know you and your books. Because I've heard from some folks who are attending tonight that they might be familiar with one or two of you and have read your books, but they're excited to learn more about all of you. So I'm going to go down in the order that you're listed on Jungle Red and ask you to say where you're calling in from and just a little bit about yourself and your writing in 2 minutes. So I know that's going to go really fast. So first up is Julia Spencer Fleming.
Hi. So I am calling in from Buxton, Maine. I live in rural southern Maine in a house that is 200 years old and really looks it. I write a series that is set in the Adirondack region, which is where my family originally comes from. And I'm irresistibly drawn to small towns, and that's what I write about is, bad goings on in small towns with a sleuth who is the local Episcopal priest who pairs up with the town's chief of police. Although I warn people listening, these aren't cozies. There's swearing, there's violence. In later books, there's sex. So not be like the woman who sent me a letter after she read one of my books and said, I thought these are going to be good Christian books. I was very disappointed in you.
Oh, that's great. That's just a quick comment I'll make is one thing I like about the combination of all of you is that you have everything from cozies to, psychological suspense. And I think that just brings a lot for a reader who's, reads around and maybe, or people who want to expand into a different subgenre. I think it's a great opportunity for people to do that. Thanks, Julia. Next up is Lucy Burdette.
Hi, everyone. And I should say that Julia and Jen can make the pages sizzle. And I think that's true of Hallie, too. We start to write about sex, it turns into food. And that's not having sex, they're eating. And that's described at great length. So I write what's called a culinary cozy mystery series. I have 10 of them out. The Key Lime Crime came out last August, and the 11th is coming this August, A Scone of Contention. So the books take place in Key West, where I live half the year, the cold half of the year. We're down there. And it's such a fabulously interesting place full of characters. If you need help coming up with ideas, you just walk outside and they're all around you. The rest of the year, I'm in Connecticut, which is lovely this time of year. So the book features a food critic who lives on a houseboat. And by the time 11 books have come along, there's a whole range of characters that I have to figure out how to work into the different books. And I was a clinical psychologist in my previous career. So it's understanding the characters is the part that I love the most.
That's great. Thank you, Lucy. Are you in Connecticut now? Or are you?
Connecticut.
Yeah, great. I should say Emily and I are in Connecticut too. We both live in Guilford. Okay.
So right next door to you in Madison.
Oh, wow. That's great. So next up is Hallie Ephron.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hallie. I am coming to you from Boston, where yesterday it was 90 degrees and today It is a lovely 70 degrees. And we are having a beautiful day, but we have had a brutal week. I write suspense novels. I really like domestic suspense. So when people ask me, what's the settings of your book? I usually say, well, they're kind of set in a house. You know, it might be a Victorian house. In the current book, which is Careful What You Wish For, the house is kind of like my house. And the books are very personal. They're the kind of stories that I hope someone will read and think, you know, this could really happen, and shudder. Because you wouldn't want to be married to the guy that my poor protagonist in this book is married to. He's a lot like my husband in that he collects and collects and collects, and she's a professional organizer who helps people downsize. So it's a mixed marriage. And there's a lot also going on when she gets called in to empty out a self-storage unit.
That's creepy right there.
No severed heads. Let me just say, you're not going to find graphic violence or severed heads in my books, or damaged children. It's just there's a few places I don't go. But I do hope you'll read it and think, you know, this could really happen. This book got a starred review in Publishers Weekly, and it was reviewed by Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, interesting.
No, in Time magazine. I always felt like I had a kinship with her. I come from a kind of Hollywood family, and she definitely comes. She's an A-list Hollywood family. I'm like a C-list Hollywood family. But I'm such a big fan of hers because she's got gray hair like me, and she writes, she acts. I'm blithering.
Thanks, Hallie. All right. Next up is, and I should also let participants ask questions in the chat, please.
We have some
coming in, but if questions come up, please put them in right away. But next up is Rhys Bowen.
Hi. Well, as you can hear from my accent, I come from Texas. No, sorry.
That's my line, Rhys.
So I'm a transplanted Brit. I spend half my year in California and the other half in Arizona, where I go to escape those harsh California winters, and also to hang out with Jen, which is the good part. And I currently write 2 historical mystery series. One is set in New York at the turn of the 20th century and features Molly Murphy, who is an Irish immigrant. Those are fairly gritty and fairly immigrant experience. And the lighter series takes place in the 1930s with a heroine who is a minor royal but penniless. Lady Georgie is 35th in line to the throne. And so they're fun satire on the whole British class system, the whole British royal system. I did 17 in the Molly Murphy series, and I put them on hiatus for a while because I simply didn't have time to write anymore. But my daughter came and persuaded me to be a co-writer with me. And so we resurrected the Molly Murphy series. We've done the first book together. It was an absolute joy to work with her. And so the first one comes out next year, working with her, and it's called Wild Irish Rose. And I'm up to 15 in the Royal Spiness series. The latest one was called The Last Mrs. Summers. And if you've read Rebecca, you will appreciate this because it's an absolute spoof on Rebecca. The next one comes out in October, and it's called, it's a Christmas book. That's why it's coming out in October. Go figure. It's called God Rest Ye Royal Gentlemen. When I'm not doing those, I'm writing big historical standalones. I've written 5 now. They've all been international bestsellers, and my books are now translated into 29 languages. The latest that came out is called The Venice Sketchbook. That's my gorgeous cover. Came out, 2 months ago now, and still on the bestseller list, which I like. And it takes place in World War II and in the present. I really like that jumping between time periods, so it's become something I enjoy doing. I think that's all about me, except that I love being one of the Reds. We really have a family here, and that's what I really like.
That's lovely.
Thank you so much.
We had someone pipe into the chat. Kathy says, "I can't wait to read the new Molly Murphy!" Exclamation point.
Yeah. All right. So next up is Hank Phillippi Ryan, who longtime listeners know she was our guest on episode 115.
I have
Hi,
a T-shirt that says 115 on it. I wear it all the time. Book 115. I love it. And Kathy is Kathy Boone Reel, who is a wonderful friend of Jungle Red and a terrific book reviewer. So we rely on her. We're grateful for her being here today. It's great. And I see Judy Singer, and that's so great. And Jerry, so many friends of Jungle Red. It's just great that you could invite them all over here to play Cougars with us. Great. So quickly, I'm Hank Phillippi Ryan. I am the investigative reporter for WHDH-TV here in Boston. I have been a television reporter for 43 years, if you can possibly imagine that. I live outside Boston, on the other side of Boston from Hallie, in a town called Newton, a little town called Newton, in a house that was built in 1894. You can picture that. You can just picture no air conditioning is what you picture that house. So, gosh, I've always wanted to write, but I didn't start writing mysteries until I was 55, which was 15 years ago. And since then, I've become the USA Today best-selling author of 13 thrillers. This one, The Murder List, won the Anthony Award for Best Novel of the Year last year. So you're very pleased about that. And this book, The First to Lie, is now nominated for the Anthony this year and for the Mary Higgins Clark Award. So I'm thrilled about that. The second career has turned out to be so much fun. You know, they always say, and we could talk about this, to write the kind of book you love to read. So I don't like graphic sex, and I don't like graphic violence, and I don't like inappropriate language, but I do like twisty, turny, deceptive manipulation, mind games, gaslighting, all that kind of stuff that you never exactly know who to trust. So I always talk about my books and say, I write cat and mouse thrillers. But the question is, which character is the cat and which character is the mouse?
Nice. I like that. Thank you, Hank. All right. Next up is Deborah Crumby.
Hi, and I am coming to you from Dallas, Texas. Actually, it's McKinney, Texas. Is a nice town north of Dallas. I live in a 1905 house, and I write British crime novels. I'm sort of Rhys's opposite number here. She's the transplanted Brit, and I'm the Texan that thinks I'm transplanted. I've been an Anglophile as long as I can remember, and when I decided to start writing books about almost 30 years ago, I, like Hank, wanted to write what I love to read, which was British crime novels. So I thought I'd give it a try, and I sold that first book, and I have been doing it ever since. I have am working on my 19th novel. They feature my Metropolitan Police Detective Superintendent Duncan Kincaid and Inspector Gemma James, who are now personal as well as professional partners. And, I love everything British. I love history. So my books are present day, but a lot of them have sort of a historical backstory or thread that runs through them. I have a big cast of characters by this time, so it's a lot of fun to play around with multiple characters and different locations. My detectives are based in London, but some of the cases are in other parts of Britain. My latest book is called A Bitter Feast. Back up there. And this book is actually set in the beautiful English Cotswolds, which was really, really fun to write. My books are cozy. They aren't usually terribly graphic, but, there is an occasional swear word. And so they're police procedurals. And the 19th book will be out next summer, and we should be releasing the title soon.
Cool. Thank you. All right. And so last but not least is Jen Mckinley.
Hi. Wow, it's so hard to remember where to start. Rhys already gave it away, but I am in Scottsdale, Arizona. We are not having a lovely summer day. It's like 105. So my whining will commence. I do spend a lot of my summers usually in Nova Scotia, Canada, but this year I can't because I believe the border's going to stay closed. So I will be headed back to New England, and my family is in Connecticut and Massachusetts. But one of my series, the Library Lover series, is set in a village called Briar Creek, but anybody from that area knows that I completely ripped off Stony Creek. So
awesome.
That's I write primarily cozy mysteries. So it's the Library Lover series, the Cupcake Bakery mystery series, the London Hat Shop mystery series. I have 2 others that were written under different names, and they're done, so we won't go there. And I love them all. When people ask me about my mysteries, they say, "Can you describe them?" And I say, "Sure." It is an Agatha Christie I Love Lucy mashup. So that's pretty much my thing. The latest cupcake one just came out. It's The Baker's Dozen, the 13th, and it's For Better or Worse. So it looks like there's a wedding in there, but I'm not going to say because then you won't read it. So, and I recently jumped into women's fiction, and this is last summer's title. Paris is always a good idea. There is smoking hot sex because why not? Sorry, Hank.
I love yearbooks. Yearbooks don't count. They're fabulous every week.
Thank you. And I think it's hard because you get hit on both sides. Like a lot of the younger readership is, I need more sex. And I'm like, dude, I'm menopausal. You're lucky you get what you got. And then the companion to the Paris book, I only have a little picture of it, but this one comes out in August. It's actually the sister of the heroine in the Paris book. She's traveling the world, Chelsea Martin, and Paris is always a good idea. Title kind of gives it away. But she goes to Ireland, Paris, and Italy looking for men that she was in love with once, hoping she can fall in love again. Won't tell you anymore, or you won't read it. But she has a sister, and this I didn't want to do a continuity, like that wasn't the plan. But I kind of gave her this like sister that was just a wild child, graphic designer, married twice by the age of 28. And my publisher kept saying, well, what's your next women's fiction going to be? What's your plan? And I sent tons of ideas in. And then, of course, I'm taking a shower because the best ideas come in the shower because you don't have a pen. And all of a sudden, it was like, oh, my God, I have to find out what happens to Annabelle. So Annabelle leaves Boston and comes to Phoenix and has kind of a misunderstanding pen pal relationship with her very strict landlord. Because she hears he's retired, she assumes he's old, and then she meets him, and he's a hot guy. So I'll leave it at that.
Ooh, sounds good. Well, Kathy says, Jen never sleeps. That's the only way I can figure she can write so much. Her books will make you feel good about reading. That's a lovely comment. I love that.
Thank you, Kathy.
It's great. And I just put a link in the chat to our bookshop.org page where there's a list of 2 books from each of the Jungle Red writers. So if you want to get started and, just click on their name within that link and all their books will come up. Have you all ever figured out between the 7 of you how many books you've published?
Oh, no.
Wow, no.
That's an amazing question.
A few years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, I actually did a post for the blog where I tallied up the number of books we had published at that time and the number of awards that we had won, which was really kind of impressive when you pile them up on top of each other. But it's hopelessly out of date now because, I think it was like in 2015 maybe, and in that time, Jen has already written 95 more books.
Won 2 awards.
Well, I reached out to Hank and said, I'm going to build a bookshop page with all the books that you've written. So listeners and readers can go and just, purchase and see all the books. And Hank said, Emily, Rhys has written over 50 books alone. I was like, oh, thanks, Hank. You saved me from myself. So
you both worked so hard on that page. But I remember when I got that email, I thought, oh, sister, you don't want to do that. I mean, Jen and Rhys and everyone has written so many books. And so I thought, oh, go ahead if you want to, but I wouldn't do it. But it's a really, I mean, Julia's so right about that. It's when you think of us as a group and putting together the aggregate of what we've accomplished in our little lives, it's kind of amazing that we're such good friends and we've written so many books and we've gotten so much love from the writing community and the reading community. It's really quite astonishing.
It's
Well, I think the mystery community is unique. And I know for me, I mean, my first book ended up being a mystery because I read them. I had no idea. I didn't meet another mystery writer until I had a publisher. And oh my God, it was so wonderful to find a community where you're actually welcomed, as opposed to, you know, there was very little backbiting or jealousy. People were just, you know, offering a hand. What can I do to help you? And then you pass it along. It's a terrific community. Maybe it's because we don't take ourselves that seriously. You must pick that up from the way that we're talking about our books. I mean, we know we write to entertain.
Right.
We write to entertain ourselves. I mean,
I always remember when, whenever you know, there are days when you're writing and you think, oh, I stink. This is the worst book ever been written. This is so embarrassing. And I remember Sue Grafton used to say, get over yourself. You know, you're just writing a book. And I laugh at that. And we miss her so much. And I laugh at that sort of attitude of, this is wonderful. We're lucky. We're doing this very special thing. And the idea that it's difficult, you know, almost always sort of reassures me that we're doing something that's valuable, that as storytellers, what we're doing is something that people enjoy and rely on, especially now that the times are so scary. You know, it's always safe inside a book. I've said this for a year now, and I continue to be really comforted by that. And it's always safe inside a manuscript as well.
I was going to say that this community was so important over the past year and a half. Not just for us, although it was very important to know that you guys were just there within an email or a text away. But I think our community really depended on us even more, because I think we asked the question, should we continue? Do we have it in us to continue to do this every day? And one of us said, oh, there's no choice. People are relying on hearing from us and making that connection. So to me, that's the most wonderful thing about the group.
Well, we were a huge support for one another too. And even though we only generally Zoom once a month or so, we actually chat. You know, we have a group email and we chat every day. It's always, well, you know, whatever is going on and how's everybody doing, and just constant support.
Well, this year too, I've noticed that so many people, you know, they were isolated, and I've had so many letters that said, oh, thank you for writing. Your books have got me through this year. And then I've had much more involvement on my Facebook page. And I realized these are people who probably are trapped alone. And so I mean, my Facebook page, I made the effort to do something every day, to chat every day. And really silly things, you know, I put out something like, oh, guess what I did today? I had to do some ironing. I hate ironing, don't you? And within an hour, I've got 400 comments saying, wow. I hate ironing too. I love ironing. I sometimes do ironing, but they want to be part of it. Yeah. So that's been important to me, to keep them going.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. We did have a question from Kathy for Hallie. She wanted to know what you're working on now.
So would I. I have a novel started. I have a lot going on in my personal life that is slowing me down, that I don't share very much. But basically, I have an idea for a story set in Brooklyn with that's based on some research I did years and years and years ago. And I always say to people, save everything, because yesterday's crap is tomorrow's compost. I'm going through all this stuff that I accumulated back then and pulling all kinds of stuff that I don't remember experiencing. And there it is. So, I mean, I know all of you guys do the same thing in that you write just to pour your thoughts onto the page and know that it'll be somewhere after you've forgotten it, right?
Well,
yeah.
Well, Kathy said, I can wait, Hallie, because I know it will be worth it.
Kathy, I love you.
And we have a friend in common, Chris and I, Carol, who we met at an event called Booktopia that takes place now at Northshire Bookstore up in Vermont. And she said she met an Episcopalian minister who loved Claire and Russ as much as she does. And she started following the Jungle Reds when Julia joined, and loves that you're a group of intelligent women full of spirit and great writing.
I really locked in the Episcopalian reading public.
You're looking to tackle that market. So I have a question. People who listen to the podcast know that I love food. I think food and sex actually can go side by side. It's all about passion, but don't get me off on that tangent. So Lucy, I wanted to know if you test recipes. Do you have people who test them for you? How do you bring food into your writing?
I don't have any people. That's the trouble. What my research involves going out to dinner with my husband, which is tough, but you have to do it. It's food critic. All the places in my series are real restaurants. So I have to have been there and be able to describe it. My rule of thumb is if somebody's going to be poisoned, I will make that place up. But it's interesting because I think I've gotten to be a better eater and also a cook with this series, because my character is a cook and her mother's a cook and they're always making things. And so I had to up my game. So my husband could guarantee you that's been true. Not the same old recipes.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I have a question that I don't know how to ask it, but there's 7 of you here, so maybe one of you will have an answer. But is there a question that you wish readers would ask you that they haven't asked yet or rarely ask? Do you have one of those?
I wish they'd ask me what my Venmo is.
Kidding. Have Jen.
That's a really tough question.
Yeah.
Question I've never been asked.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that it would be number one for me to want to answer it because, wow, what question do people never ask? What they always ask is, where do you get your ideas?
Yeah.
And I have to say, it's one of my favorite questions because it's always an answer that is completely related to that book.
Yeah.
Something happened to you, you overheard something, you read something. It's what Hank talks about as a little drop of what do you say, ink in a little bit of water, and then what's your analogy for that, Hank?
I think that, and thank you for remembering. I think that when you have a good idea, and actually, it's about theme. That analogy is about theme, but it does work for ideas as well. I talk about how having when you get your theme, and the theme evolves as you write the book, not necessarily when you begin the book, but when you get it, and you think, oh, my theme, and it's like a drop of iodine in a glass of clear water. That one little drop, that one little idea, that one little gem colors the whole thing. And suddenly, as that floats through the water, what used to be nothing and clear becomes rich and full and gorgeous and beautiful because you had this idea. And that I agree with you, Hallie, that the question, where do you get your ideas? I embrace that so fully, because that's a question about how a writer's mind works. You know, how you can have 1,000 ideas and it's no, 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 no. And then suddenly, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And where does that come from, you all? What makes that idea click into yes?
Hank, you're much more eloquent, and your analogy is much more eloquent. Mine is like, I would say it's like a pot of soup, and you throw in this and you throw in that, and then you throw in something else, and you know, you hope that whatever comes out in the end tastes good.
Yes, but Debs, you know, I hear you with this, but I think, I mean, your books are so brilliant and they're all about something. And when you taste, I'm just going to push this metaphor to the end. When you taste the soup and you think, oh, it just needs a little bit of salt. And when that salt goes in and it blooms into the story, you know that moment, right?
Well, you know, what I don't like is when the soup has too many ingredients. Now, we've all made soups that have too many ingredients. And how do you take out an ingredient? That is really the hard thing, is when you've gone down a wrong path, how do you untangle? And anybody ever had that experience?
Well, we've all made soup. We taste it in the middle and say, this is the worst.
Worst soup ever.
Every book, doesn't it happen?
Hallie, I was going to say that's what good editors are for.
Yes.
Are for looking at what your soup, to go with an analogy, and say, well, you know, I like the beef and the green beans and the noodles, but I think the I don't know, the mushrooms are just a step too far. You're going to have to take the mushrooms.
The jalapeno.
Thank you. That's
right. Too much salt. It's always hard to turn back from too much salt. That's for sure. So
I think Lucy was asking about, though, having the bad writing days. Is that what you were talking about, Lucy?
What I was talking about. You get about halfway through and go, this is just a terrible mess, and I don't have time to throw it out. But and my theory is just don't worry about it. Write down the pieces that are coming to you, which to me often happens that I'll write the ending, even if I don't know I know it, and then I have something to shoot for. But we're also different. Like Jen, you are an outliner, which amazes me. How do you?
Oh yeah.
How do you know?
How do you not? How do you not? Oh, I don't understand not outlining. I can't even wrap my head around not having an outline. It's that seat of the pants thing freaks me out. But you know, control freak. I mean, you know.
There's no way I could know the ending. You know, I could.
How do you know?
It'd be awful. You know, I like to, when I write, I like to be surprised. You know, if my heroine is startled by going into a room, I like to be startled too, because I didn't know what she was going to find in there till she goes in, and then you go, "Oh my God, you shouldn't have gone in there." But you know, I like to be amused, to entertained, and scared when I write my own books. That's how it works for me.
That makes sense. I mean, my outline, I agree with you there, but I'm definitely. Like there's a little bit of both. My outline is 10 pages. So I know there's a dead body, but I don't necessarily know how they got dead. And that keeps it interesting for me. But I do know who did it because, you know, then I need to throw in all the people who didn't do it so that when we get to the who did do it, everybody's surprised except for me. You know.
And you've never changed your mind at the end?
No.
I have. I've changed one murderer.
Wow.
Are
you an outliner?
Definitive Jen is. It's like, no. When I say they're dead, they stay dead.
Well,
I have had people refuse to die. That's problematic. Actually, the book I'm working on right now, someone refused to die, and they, for lack of a better word, messed up the whole book. And we're a little behind, but it's fine. It'll be fine.
Behind
That's great.
Jen's terms is different from behind in some of our other.
Because it's been determined that she doesn't sleep. So,
yes,
you know.
yes, there was a comment. This is a question from Candace related to this, possibly, you know, having the bad days. And she's wondering about, do you have a specific setup, room, daily process you engage in order to write every day? how do you keep yourself on track for completing a book? Could you all briefly talk about that, if you're willing?
I'll go first, because we all know about me. My answer is
I'm the opposite of Julia. I will share this with you, I'm hoping that you see the humor in this. And I know that maybe this will be audio someday, so I'll describe it. I sit right here at this very desk, in this very room, at this very computer, and I know that I have to write 1,000 words a day. If I write 1,000 words a day, I'll be finished in time to do the revisions for the book. So that's what I have to do. So because I am a 5-year-old, I have to make a chart and give myself a gold star when I make my 1,000 words a day. And I'm holding up now my clever chart with ruler on a white pad. It looks like this. And I want you to know, I don't know if you can see.
Oh, yeah, we can see that.
All the blank spaces on me.
Look at that. Wow.
We're good.
Blank spaces, blank spaces. This is like today, blank, yesterday, blank, not good. And then if I make my words, I put a little smiley face to give myself
excellent. Yes.
Look what happened. No, did not. There's a little frowny face on the. So I'm very organized, Candace. In your long-winded answer, very organized, because that is the only way I can keep going. If I say I don't have to write a whole book. I just have to write my 1,000 words.
That's a big one, is because the idea of a novel is so overwhelming. Yeah. To try to sit down and just, have the whole book there in your head, and how on earth am I going to get to the end of 500-page manuscript or however long it is? But if you say I'm going to write 500 words a day or 1,000 words a day, or if you sit down and you're having a really bad day and you say I'm going to write a paragraph, and then you get a paragraph and then
it starts to flow.
Yeah, because you have to take it in little bitty bites.
Well, I think for me, both my mystery and my women's fiction are comedy driven. And while there are dead bodies in one and, sex in the other, I'm always writing to the punchline. So I don't really think about a word count, and I don't really think about a page count. I know when the book is due, and we kind of aim for that. But mostly I sit down so I can sit there and make myself laugh, because life is hard and it's been particularly difficult this last couple of years. So for me, it's like writing is, it's fun. Like I just want to laugh. I want to put them in ridiculous positions. I want them to have snappy dialogue. I want to feel like I'm hanging out with my friends, because the world has been pretty. So I think for me, it's I don't know about you guys. It's like I don't look at writing as a chore. I look at it as, oh my gosh, I don't have to do the hooligan's laundry. I can ignore the hub and his guitar playing. It's kind of like my escape, So that's me.
Actually, Jen, the same thing with me when I write that's why I like doing the different things. My big standalones, lots of research, World War II, lots of scary stuff, Molly Murphy, quite dark, and then I write the Royals Finest. And then I sit there at the computer and I shout out to John, "Hey, listen to what Queenie just said." And it
exactly.
That's terribly therapeutic, I think. But I'm very like Hank in that I have to do. The last couple of years I've done 2.5 books in a year. One of them's a big 400-page book, So there's a lot of work. So I make myself do 1,500 words a day for that first draft. And usually it's weekends too, unless there's something really big happening at weekends. And so I sit there 1,500 words a day in this very room that you can see, with all the books behind me, with all my research stuff, and staring at a blank wall, because if I stared out of the window, I would look at things. And I don't get up till I've done, I don't stop until I've done 1,500 words. And some days that comes really easily. And, I go past that, and maybe I do 7 or 8 pages and I'm really happy. Other days it's like pulling teeth. I get up, I throw something in the laundry, I come back, I go up and get a cup of coffee, I come back, I look out the window, I come back. But if you can't stop,
you're describing my day.
If you can't stop until you've done it, then you do it. And then sometimes I think this was absolute rubbish. I mean, what was I thinking? And then the next day, when I always start the first thing of the day by editing what I did the day before, and I read it through, and I think, oh, well, this wasn't quite as bad as I thought. Yeah, it's yeah, and then you can go on from there. So that, and I have to tell you, I've done, as Hank said, close to 50 books now and every single book it's the same. And it's funny because one of my close friends, Jacqueline Winspear, and I have exactly the same emotions. Starting off is pure terror, every book, because I don't know where I'm going. I start writing it and I think, this is going to be awful. I'm going to say the whole story in 50 pages. It's going to be the world's shortest book. And so the first 50 pages are literally in terror. And then I get to page 50 and there's a little light ahead. And I think, oh, and then by the time I get to page 100, I think, oh, well, yeah, this is quite a good story. I know where I'm going now. And then when I get to page 200, it's like, oh, I can see what's happening now. And then it romps along towards the end. But every single book, I have to have that terror at the beginning. And there's no way around that.
Are there any of us who don't feel terrified at the beginning, Jen? We know you so well.
I don't either. For me, the beginning is this sort of exhilarating, wow, it's going to be a perfect book. This is the book that's going to give me the Pulitzer Prize kind of thing. When I feel terror is actually at about that 100 pages in where I go, what the hell am I doing? I don't know anything about writing. What is this plot? Is horrible. And I always say, I'm going to have to go back to being a lawyer. No. I reach the end and I think, this is brilliant. This is the best thing anyone has ever written. I'm a genius. And then I send it to my agent and my editor. And if they don't immediately get back with saying, this is brilliant, it's the best thing ever written, I switch on the other way. I'm like, oh, it's horrible. I'm going to have to go back to being a lawyer.
I remember when I saw my first contract and it had a word count in it. And I was like, I forget what it was. I think it was 95,000 words. And no way can I write a 95,000. I know a lot of you can, but my books all come in at around 75 or 80. And I didn't even know that then, but I knew that 95,000 was, and then it's bad when you start thinking about pushing a story to a word count.
Yeah.
Because then it loses the organic feeling of one thing leading to another, which is so, and then the twists and turns. So word counts.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jen.
Sorry. Well, I was like, because my contracts have word counts, but I don't care. Like, I think they have an 80,000 word count, and I turned in at 65, and I'm like, that's it, we're done.
Wow.
So I guess are you really how many of you have the word count in your head? Because I don't.
I never think about that.
I think about the mood
of it and the flow of the story and what people are thinking, and it's like a roller coaster. It speeds up and then it speeds, then it goes tick 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 tick, and then and you sort of feel the middle coming, and you sort of feel the big conflict at the end coming, and then you sort of feel the soft wrap up coda at the end. It's like music. It's like a song, and when the song is the right length and the lyrics are right. And it doesn't matter if it's 85,000 words or 60,000 words, or like my first draft comes out to be 120,000 words. I have to cut 20,000 words every time, and that's so much fun too. It's so much fun to feel the book that it was meant to be.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you all for that. And Hallie, I can imagine it's a lot different when it's your first book and the first contract. And, you are also wonderfully experienced and prolific. It's just been a joy to talk with you tonight and to get to know you all a little bit. We're at our time, unfortunately, already. I can't believe how fast this hour has gone.
So sorry that it's over. I could talk to you all night.
But thank you all for coming. And for those of you who are here, we do want you to buy the books of these women and read them and share them with your friends. I think there's something for everyone
It's true. You guys are very prolific. Sure, show your book titles.
Yeah.
And I did send out in the email that had the Zoom link, everyone's websites were in that email. So you can go to their websites and look for all of their books there. You can also go to our bookshop.org page where there are tastes of each of their books in that, and then you can click on the author name, and bookshop.org will list all of their books there. And reminder to people that bookshop.org, we know a lot of you have your own favorite indie bookstores. We highly recommend you buy from them. Bookshop.org also does help to support independent bookstores if you are not fortunate enough to have a bookstore in your own neck of the woods. So
Yeah.
Please support independent bookstores, as I'm sure have supported all of these authors.
Yes.
Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for
Thank
doing
you.
this.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you. Well, we have one question
Oh.
from Laura that we
Oh,
can
we
get.
do.
Yeah.
Great
Maybe you-
evening. I'm curious how you got your first novel published. Do any of you mentor new writers?
I do a lot of teaching. I know others do as well. Julia does. But I teach at a lot of writing conferences, and I mean, right now I'm reading a book that I had a student at the Yale Writers Workshop who was her first book, and it's such a treat to get a call from HarperCollins saying, we have a debut writer who you worked with. Would you be willing to look at her book? Of course, I'd be thrilled.
That's right. Yeah.
That is, it doesn't happen very often. There's 150 writers struggling for every one that finishes a book, and then 100 who finish who actually get a contract. It's a brutal, but so exciting when it happens. So I do a lot of teaching for the Sisters in Crime Guppies. Everybody here does a certain amount of teaching.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I do teaching, and I've taught for the Stone Coast MFA program for writers, which unlike a lot of MFA writer programs, actually has a track for commercial fiction, which is what we all write. But I think when people think mentoring writers, they're thinking sort of one-on-one, which it's not that effective. I mean, we all have a lot of stuff going on in our lives that make that difficult, but also because editing and writing are two different skills. And you go to a writer, it's better to, for instance, Hallie has this fantastic book. Can you hold it up? You probably don't have it right there. Hallie has a fantastic book on writing the mystery novel, which if you're into doing mysteries, you're probably going to learn, as much from that as you are from talking to one of us. Because once you've gotten pretty well into the weeds in your own manuscript, at that point, what you're talking about is one, finish it, right? And then two, you want someone who is good at editing to take a look at it. And that's where you get out, with beta readers, and then hopefully putting it out to agents.
Yeah, you want an editor first who can look at the big picture. I mean, I also see a lot of people give their manuscripts to people, and I have nothing against English teachers, but it's kind of a cliche, right? Is someone who's going to fix the periods and the typos and the dangling infinitives or whatever it is that dangles in a sentence. I don't know anymore. But what you really need right away is somebody who can tell you, is the story working? Does the main character have an arc? Are there 3 acts? Do I want to keep turning the pages? And if not, why not? And so who is just, go ahead.
What did you say, Lucy?
If you don't have more than one suspect, you might not know that in your first book.
Right.
And I also was going to say, if you're in the mystery writing world, join Sisters in Crime, because that is a very supportive organization, and you're going to meet people at every level. That's how the group of us met initially. So that's my best advice: is join the writing community.
And there is a great new handbook out from Mystery Writers of America on don't have a copy up here.
I do. I just organized my books. Where did I put it?
On how to write a mystery, and with little bits of advice from all kinds of mystery authors, and a few of us included, that would be, I think, a big help. I wish I'd had something like that when I started writing. So.
Yeah.
The book is wonderful, The Mystery Writers of America Handbook.
There it
There it goes.
There it is.
Write a mystery.
Hallie's in it, and Deb's is in it. I'm in it. Did I leave anybody out? I mean, I teach the International Thriller Writers Masterclass, and I teach for Writers Digest and for career authors. But we can all mentor you, and I will tell you what we would say. We would call you every morning and say, "Are you writing right now? What are you doing talking to us on the phone? Get to your computer. Thank you and goodbye."
Over and out.
Right. What about a writer's group, though? I mean, do any of you workshop your book just within a group of writers, or do you read each other's books?
Or manuscripts.
In manuscripts.
Yeah. We do.
Yeah. I belong to a plot group for my mysteries because I've written almost 40 mysteries, so I'm running out of ways to kill people. So I have 2 cozy mystery authors, Kate Carlisle and Paige Shelton, and we will get together for a weekend and just plot murder.
That sounds like a nice weekend.
Yeah.
I was in I was in a writers group for years, but we kind of eventually went our separate ways. But I have a couple of friends who are brainstorming pals, like Jen's buddies and first manuscript readers, which is a big help. Just have somebody whose opinion, whose input you trust to talk about things with, and is this working? Do you think that character would really do that? So it's a big help.
Yeah.
I also think one of the biggest helps, I was part of a writers group when I first started writing, which was not mysteries but science fiction, which turns out I'm not very good at. But one of the best things that you can do is, it's like having an exercise buddy or somebody who's on a diet with you. It's accountability. If you have people who are going to be looking when you meet, whatever, once a month or however often, and say, how many pages have you written? That's helpful. Just like it is to say, have your girlfriend call up and say, I'm heading for the gym. Do you have your sneakers on? Are you coming?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you. Thank you all for answering that last minute question that snuck in.
And don't forget to check out Jungle Red Writer's blog. That was also in the email that I sent out to everybody. And thank you so much for your time and for your support as women writers. It's just so fun to see a group of women writers helping each other in this way. I really like that and admire it greatly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.